Hey, good morning and welcome to Breakthrough Walls. I'm Ken Walls and I'm your host. And I have a true American hero on today. This guy is the number one car salesman in the world, broke the Guinness Book of World Records. He's got an unbelievable story. So stay with us. This is going to be amazing. Reda will be joining us. And let me bring Ali on. Ali, welcome to the show.
Happy to be here, my friend. I appreciate you.
It's a miracle.
I was about to go get my cape,
dude. I'm
with the superhero thing, and I was like, "What the? Oh, you know what? Actually, I should just grab a bunch of deal jackets. That'll be my cape. I'll make it out of deal jackets. That'll be perfect."
Oh my god! Oh my god! So, dude, I mean, I'm gonna go play the lottery because you're on here today. Like, this is the luckiest day.
I can't believe you actually. I mean, you're the greatest salesman of all time. You got me on here on December 31st. Like, to me, in December, every single day is December 31st, right? If you never heard that before, in my December, for some reason,
I haven't heard that.
So it started years ago when I said to close out the year. I said I have to treat every day in December as the last day of the month, last day of the year. It's December 31st every day. There is no tomorrow, right? So historically, my best months have ever been in December, right? I've broken every record in December. So that's the approach that I've always had. So for you to get me on here at December 7/31st. Unbelievable. So you're the top guy.
I mean, it only took me 3 years to finally close you. You know,
forget about that stuff.
Hey, evidence that not giving up actually works.
Yeah,
right?
There you go.
Stay in the deal. Just stay in the deal.
Yeah, stay in the deal. There's a deal there.
Hey, listen, man. I am honored, and you know, I did have the opportunity. I was in Detroit one day, and I got to. It's hard to get a hold of you. I didn't have your cell phone number. I'm like, how do I get a hold of this dude? So I send you a message on Facebook, and look, we got I mean, come on, Frank Cranitti. Holy smokes.
That's my boy right there. That's my man.
Know.
That's
Love
my main
that
man,
dude,
Frank Cranitti.
Hey, everybody share this out. Because Ali's going to impart some wisdom, teach you how to make millions of dollars selling cars.
Yeah, it's possible, right?
Or probably anything. So, and Victoria loves your smile. So, Ali, you know, I started this show 3.5 years ago. And it was to help people get unstuck in life, and probably in a selfish way to help me get unstuck. But I thought, you know, let's just go ahead and share it with the world. So, you know, tell everybody where you were born and raised. Let's start there.
Man, so actually, I was born in the Middle East, but I you know, came to the U.S. when I was 2 years old. So you know, pretty much been here my whole life. I grew up in Detroit. I'm a product of Detroit public schools. Went to Detroit public schools from elementary all the way through my first year of high school, and then I moved to Dearborn, the city I live in now, which is a suburb right outside of Detroit. So you know, my roots are here. But you know, a lot of people say that, you know, where you come from shouldn't dictate where you're going. And you know, do we have challenges? Sure, but you know, I kind of stayed focused. But I'm proud to be a product of Detroit, man.
That's awesome. So yeah, Detroit gets a bad rap. I think I was when I visited you, I ended up downtown with my friends, and they took me to dinner. I'd never been in Detroit.
Yeah.
And it's beautiful.
Gorgeous.
I mean, absolutely beautiful.
Yeah,
Oh,
the history, I mean, it's historic. I mean, there's some really cool places. But unfortunately, just bad news travels better than good news, and that's
yeah,
usually what they talk about. But there's a lot of good stuff going on, and it's still
yeah,
up and coming. It
yeah.
was
It's
booming. Obviously COVID backed things up, but it was booming up until that point. I mean, you couldn't get property, you couldn't get anything in downtown area. So it's there.
yeah, it's amazing, man. And so and I just want to say thank you to everybody who you don't know that guy, do
Yeah, I love that guy, Reda. Hey, it's so awesome, man.
you?
I have good conversations with Joe.
He's a trip. I love Joe too. So so you went to like the city school, Detroit city schools?
Yeah, yeah, public schools. Yeah, I
Wow.
went to elementary and junior high, and then right when I started my freshman year of high school, I moved. Family moved to Dearborn, which is like it's a border of Detroit.
Yeah.
But really cool. Yeah, but public schools throughout my whole life. I believe in them. I think that like I said, it doesn't matter where you go if you have good roots, good family. You can achieve anything. But
Yeah. So you did you go to college?
yeah, so right after high school, I went to community college. At that
Okay.
time, I didn't come up with much, so I had to kind of get my way into community college, and I think I took a year off before I can afford it, and then I got some aid going there, and then I ended up walking onto the basketball team at Henry Ford and got a little help with the tuition and that from that era. So I played basketball there for a good year, and then that was pretty cool. That was a lot of fun. And then I kind of graduated from there, and went to U of M Dearborn, a few classes, but I just got my associates. I didn't get anything after that. Started
Gotcha.
working. I had to work. I mean, that was I
Yeah.
was in survival mode at that time. I mean, that's what I had to do.
Is that when you got started in the car business, or was it?
So no, right out of high school, man, I started this co-op program. Actually, my senior year, I started this co-op program and worked at this industrial shop where I went to school half a day and then worked, at this place for my credits. And then I went to I stayed there for 10 years. So that was in '91. I stayed there till 2001. I
Wow.
worked at this company. It was a small company, very good, man. I was doing good, maybe making 50, 60 grand a year. But I needed more at that time. I was like, wow, I'm just going to be stuck here. This is my future. I wasn't going anywhere at that point.
Yeah.
And it was, there was a ceiling. It was two owners, and then I worked my way up to being third in line, and that was it. So I knew I wanted to do something else. I knew I wanted to be sales. And I actually went and interviewed at two different spots in either real estate or auto sales. And one of my friends was working at a dealership, and he was leaving and then going to work for Jaguar. And I'm like, hey, are you guys hiring since you're leaving? He's like, they're always hiring. Just go talk to, excuse me, this guy, Bobby Cap.
Yeah.
And I went in and talked to him, and pretty much, he's like, hey, you got the job. He says, they sold me on the infamous, you can make $100,000 a year working in the car business. I'm like, what? I'm making 60. Well, I can make 100. That's almost double. And they're like, yeah, you can make 100. I'm like, sign me up. Come on.
Oh my
That's the
God.
best close of all time. We've all been there. We've all been closed with that line. It's crazy.
Yeah, that's funny, man. So you got started in the car business and instantly started making millions of dollars.
For sure, bro. Come on. You remember the cape? Remember the cape thing, right?
Right.
I'm
Yeah.
standing there. Look at it. Here's what's funny. My first car sale, I still remember it, right? It was a Prism, a green Prism at the time, Chevy Geo, I think it was called.
Oh my
And
God.
I was supposed to start on a Monday, and then on Thursday, I know there was late night, so I told the guy, I said, hey, you mind if I just come in and hang out and just kind of just watch what's going on? I have no idea what they had to do in the car sales, right? I'd never
Yeah.
been in car sales. So he's like, yeah, come on in. So I'm standing in the showroom, 7, 8 o'clock, and then some guy approached me. He's like, hey, I want to buy a car. Can you help me? And I'm like, I'm in training. I says, I don't start till Monday. I says, but let me grab somebody for you. He goes, no, no, no. I said, I want you to sell me the car.
Oh
And
shit.
I'm like, all right, I'll be right back. So I go over to Bobby and I'm like, hey, this guy wants me to sell him a car. I said, what do you want me to do? He goes, well, find out what he wants. And those words still ring in my head. And exactly what he said is to find out what he wants.
Yeah.
So now all I have to do is, okay, so there's a solution to a problem. I had to find out what the problem was. And that resonated with me for the rest of my career. So just find out what they want. So however you got to get to it, you just need to find out what the problem is. And I went there, asked him some questions. Just got the details. He pulls out newspaper. He's like, I want this car. I want this price. This is what I want. I'm like, okay, get all the information. I go to Bobby, give it to him. He's like, okay, boom, boom. It writes it up. And the guy takes the car. And I'm like, this is easy. I'm like, what? This is great. I can do this every day. I said, I don't even know what I'm doing. And I sold it. And obviously there's a lot more to it.
Yeah.
But that statement, not knowing that it actually had such a big impact on my life, to just find out what they want, because ultimately, if you can actually, somehow, some way, give the needs to the consumer of what they're looking for, then that's half the battle, I guess, right? I mean, it's everything else should be pretty easy from there.
And it was a green prism.
It was a green Geo Prism. I think I made like $100 or something. It was an ad car, so who knows? I probably didn't realize that. I think if they would have told me you made 100, I would have probably left right then and there too. Who knows? I'm like, what? $100? So but that first month, I sold 19 cars. I mean, it was busy.
What?
I'm just the first month I ever started selling, I sold 19. I'm like, I got addicted, right? Second month, 26. Third month, 5. I'm like, what's going on here? I already bought a new car based on the last 2 months. What's happening?
You're like, that's it. We're out of customers.
I'm done. Yeah, right. I already got a repo. I've been in the business 3 months. What's happening here?
Oh,
so you learn quick, but it was a busy time. 2001. It was June of 2001 is when I started. So
wow.
Yeah, and I've been fortunate throughout my career because I've worked with some pretty good mentors that I actually kind of cling to and watched and just sat back and learned from and said, hey, I want to be like this guy one day, and I want to learn this business model. And I was fortunate enough to work with some good people that actually helped project me into where I am today. Because I feel like if I would have started at the wrong dealer and the wrong crowd and the wrong group, you never know. That's managers are extremely important. I mean, they're a form of a role model inside the dealership, and that's why I manage a small team, and I'm very conscious of that. I want them to be successful because I know how important it is, and very fortunate. I mean, the car gods have been so good to me to have planted me there.
Wow. So you when you started this thing, I remember I sold cars one day after my training. And it was ridiculous. I got yelled at for the way that we test drove this Jeep.
So
and I mean, I got in a lot of trouble because we were trying to flip the Jeep to see it because the guy didn't believe that it wouldn't flip. I'm like, it won't flip. and I got in trouble for that. But anyway, when you started, I mean, did you go through a bunch of Grant Cardone sales training? That's how you close the deal. I mean, did they give you anything, or did you just go in and smile?
I don't think that. I think there's obviously some flaw with the way new hirees come in, because I think they just like here's a pen in the desk, go find out what they want. There was a little bit of training, but I think at the time they were really like phone scripts, which I hated. I hated phone scripts. They're like, read off of this, phone script. And I'm like, I hate it. I couldn't do it. It sounded robotic. So I immediately threw those out and said, I'm not following this. I can't even read it. I said, it's not my vocabulary. So I just kind of, turned it. I knew what they wanted me to say. So I kind of turned it to my own vocabulary and used that. But again, I didn't get backlash. I didn't get, no, you have to. And then, they kind of let me become my own person. They weren't trying to change me, but, they maybe enhance, my sales skills. And, but there wasn't real, solid training. I actually followed Joe Girard because that was the guy, right? I mean, that's the one that had the record and did everything. So I followed him and read a couple of his books, and, just kind of watched these other guys that I worked with. I mean, that was the real training session that was happening every day. And, and I loved customers. I loved dealing with people, and I was good at that. I was good at listening to what they really wanted, and just finding the solution.
Right.
Early on, I figured, man, everybody has problems. Everybody comes in with a problem. So, if I could figure out how to solve this problem and
Right.
not create a new one, and while I'm doing that, which makes a lot of sense, because a lot of times, we just want the sale, but we're not realizing that we're solving this problem, but we're creating a bigger problem for the customer in the future. Well, that's not going to get you any repeat or referrals. And I had to figure out a way that was best for them today and best for them tomorrow. So when they came back, I wasn't, stuck with something. So it's a fine balance, but that's how we should all approach it, right? Solve the problem, don't create a new one.
How,
Because
but
I'm gonna be,
I mean, you were new in the car business. I'm sure you weren't rolling in dough. I wouldn't think.
no,
Um,
no.
I mean, you had to figure out how to survive as well, right? Um,
Yep.
but in the back of your mind, you're thinking about repeat business and referrals.
Yeah, look.
Wow.
Here's what it was. It was. I figured early on that volume. When you have that 19 and then 26 and then 5 and then 20, and then so you figure volume was what everyone was after.
Yeah.
So I looked at it. I'm like, man, manufacturer wants volume, right? The dealership wants volume. The world wants volume. So I always went after volume more than anything. So if it was a mini deal, if it was any deal, I didn't care what it was. I went after that volume, because that was a turning point of saying, okay, well, I might, make nothing on this deal or lose money on this deal, but they send me 3 other people. And I
Yeah.
figured out that that was the way to approach it. And again, being able to watch these other guys with the community activities that they did, that was the game changer, because that was getting myself involved. Obviously, it took a couple years to get this rolling, uh,
Right. Right.
but I was at least conscious of what was happening and what I needed to do, and what seeds I needed to plant, so I could become it, get to that level.
Right.
But yeah, it takes time, but you have to be aware of it, right? It's not a one night stand, right? I
Right.
mean, this is a relationship based business. So how do you build on relationships? I mean, you have to approach it that way. That mindset has to be clear to what you're trying to get after. The
But
volume was the biggest thing, though.
yeah, I mean, you had the foresight, whatever you want to call it, that you said, I got to get involved in the community. And probably I would imagine from a how do I give back to the community standpoint, right?
Yeah, it was actually just being active. I think it was just being there and being
Yeah.
in people's faces, and I didn't know what that really meant. I didn't know what relationship selling actually meant, but
Yeah.
I knew there was something there. And not until later in my career, people started talking about relationship selling. It wasn't really a thing in 2001, 2, 3, 4. It was,
Yeah.
nobody really talked about it until later. But I was doing it. I was getting involved. The guy that I worked with, Jerry Turfey, who became my mentor, he was heavy in the community, and he would just sit there, and people come in and they'd laugh, they joke, they do that, and it was like, next thing you know, the guy's driving a car. I'm like, how did that work? Right? I'm running the parking lot, I'm sweating, my hair's on fire. I don't, I'm trying to wash a car, I can't find keys, and this guy's sitting at his desk, just sitting there, and they're laughing and joking and they're having fun, and next the guy's driving a car, and I'm like, 45 cars for the month, and I'm like, wow, that's what I want to do. That's what I want to get to. And over time, I just watched it and tried to master it and tried to mimic it.
Yeah.
And again, it was just, I was fortunate to be at a place where I was able to do that, and realize that that's the course I wanted to take. Yeah, it was, I look back at it now, I'm like, wow, that was pretty cool that I was able to watch that and see it
Yeah.
and actually mimic it. But, that's what everybody should be doing now.
We'll get into the current day here shortly, but I've been there. I watched. It's a lot like Frank Graniti. You guys have, you have this. It's like you're the maestro, and you've got all these components just like
It's
working in perfect harmony.
controlled
It's
chaos.
amazing.
Yeah, it's controlled chaos. If you ever
Yeah,
see, if you ever see a guy that you're right, they can orchestrate 6, 7 sets of customers at
yeah,
once, 3, 4 waiting, and you have so many moving parts, but are able to stay in control and everybody sees it. People are watching you, whether you think it or not. I mean, they're watching your movements. They're paying attention to how you're, acting with other people, and
Yeah.
they watch your body language. I mean, there's a lot of things that you have to be conscious of, but being aware of those things helps improve them. Right. So if I have 4 or 5 sets of customers and they see I'm flustered and I don't know where my next move is, and I'm just going back and forth for, they're going to feed off of that. They're going to understand why this guy can't handle this, but if you, like Frank's a master at it, right? I've mastered it. So
Yeah.
it's fun to watch from the outside, understanding what's actually happening.
It's incredible. And like, you didn't really know me that well. And yet, and here, I mean, I don't even remember how you had people waiting. You had like you have your setup there with
Yeah.
all these
Yeah.
desks and everybody. I mean, you were probably working 8 deals at the time, and
Yeah.
you just casually strolled over, shook my hand. We took a couple of pictures, chatted. It was like you didn't skip a beat. And
Yeah.
that's important. I think that people hear how you handle that, because you have to have moments where you're just like, I can't take another moment of this. I'm stressed out. Like, this is crazy. Do you not have those moments?
Now I still love what I do, so I don't
Yeah.
really have the feeling of overwhelmed or I don't want to do this anymore, because I still absolutely love what I do, and it's still I'm still feel like I'm at my peak.
Yeah.
But with that being said, you have to have some kind of release of your human body, your nature, your mind, your
Yeah.
heart. There has to be a release so you don't get to that point, right? I mean, you can't go into work and get your head bashed in every day and then expect to be happy all the time. No.
Right.
You have to understand that there's certain things that you have to do in your life to be able to separate work and home and self, and those are the things that will buy you longevity,
Yeah.
to keep your sanity. And that meant for me to get help at some point, because when I did get overwhelmed and I was started to feel that way, I'm like, well, I just can't do it by myself. I mean, it's foolish for me to think that I could
Yeah.
continue to grow my business at the level I want and do it myself. Didn't make sense. And then so the next step was, okay, I got to reanalyze my business and I need help. So
Yeah.
I hired an assistant. And again, then that buys me more time. That buys me longevity, buys me sanity,
Yeah.
and doing personal things, being able to release and disconnect from it at times when you need it. You got to understand that.
Yeah. So at what point did you see it, like, really, I mean, because you're doing, 19 cars, 25 cars. I mean, I mean, that's still not average. It's above average, but you, at some point, you hit a stride. Do you remember hitting 50 the first time?
Yeah, so it wasn't until in 2010, the dealership that I was at actually was one of the wind down dealers that was closing. The most I ever hit there was, I think, 40 or 42 or something. So that's the most I ever had, and those were peak times.
Wow.
So then in 2010, the dealer shuts down. We're gradually closing for 2 years, by the way. It wasn't like it was overnight. I mean, it was bad, right? 07, 08, the recession, everything going through.
Yeah.
I mean, so we battled for those good three years in a row. Then, I had to start over. And, I contemplated, like a lot of people leaving the industry, right? A lot of people were leaving. Banks weren't giving out money. There was uncertainties everywhere.
Yeah.
And I said, no, this is where my heart's at. And I stayed with Chevy. I had offers from Ford and everywhere else. I'm in Ford country, right?
Yeah. Right. Right.
So that was, appealing, but I said, no, this is where I'm at. I built a customer base. I'm going to stay. So I had to start over in 2010. That's when I met my buddy Damian Boudreau, who I love dearly, who made a huge impact in my life. Just went to one of his seminars at the dealership, and things started changing. That's when relationship selling was actually introduced to me as a thing. I'm like, well, I'm already
Wow.
doing that. I'm already doing that. I'm already doing everything he was talking about. I was already doing, but didn't know I was doing it, and I
Yeah.
didn't know it was actually something. And then he just made me aware of a lot of things that were happening in my life. And that's when I told him, okay, well, I was averaging 30, 35, I think, at the time. And it was
Wow.
later that year is when I started, seeing some huge spikes in the business. Then I hit 60. later that year. And then 2011, 70, then, it just kept going up from there. And it was one level at a time. It wasn't like, I was doing 30 and I said, I want to do 100. It wasn't even possible. I mean, I never heard of it. Right. So I never thought that far ahead, but at 30, I knew I could do 40. At 40, I knew I
Yeah.
could do 60. At 60, I knew I could do 80. So, I mean, it was just one level at a time to get you to that point. But
Yeah.
now, with social media, with myself, with Frank, with a lot of these guys out there doing these big numbers, I mean, it's possible. Other people are doing it. So
Yeah.
now you can't unsee it. You've seen somebody do it, right? I mean, somebody out there is doing it. So it's possible. You just got to figure out a way to get you there.
What about I don't know if your dealership has a lot of or any turnover in the sales department. I would imagine that it has to. I mean, everybody that's hired is
Yeah,
you're their
for
biggest
sure.
competitor. Like,
Well, you know what? I wasn't. It's funny because I'm not really in competition with anybody at the dealership. They're not in
right,
competition with me. I'm not in competition with anybody but myself in all reality, right?
right,
There's
right.
so much business that you can get to. You just got to go get it. I
Yep,
mean, that's the thing. So, it's the old, if you build it, they'll come. And
yep,
it's so true, because if you're planning on just sitting at the dealership and waiting for them to come,
yeah,
especially these days, it's probably not going to happen.
yeah,
So if you want to get to those ultra high numbers in that exclusive club, then you actually have to go out and create your business. So the business I was creating had nothing to do with those other salespeople at the dealership, because
right.
everybody has the opportunity to do that. And why are people looking so far out to, like, I mean, Facebook is great and social media is great if you keep it local, but
Yeah,
what does it matter if the guy in Seattle knows what I do or who I am? He's not buying a car from me, right?
right.
So it's great, and it's great building friends all across the country. But business wise, there's more than enough business in your own backyard. You have 100,000 people in your community. I mean, that would last you a career. What more do
Yep.
you need? Do you need more than 100,000 people that buy cars from you? I mean, no, you don't. So, just being able to cater to your own community, and every salesperson has their own community that they can do that, their own tribe, their own, whatever they're into. So if you cater to those small groups and it grows into something bigger, that's the starting point. You don't need anything more than that. So competition comes from yourself.
Well, I sit here and I think about, and I've shared this with others, but I think that people don't real a lot of car salespeople. I've owned 50 cars probably as an adult, and I can name one salesperson that I'm still very close to, and that's Frank Cornetti.
Mhm.
If I wanted a Corvette or I wanted a Cadillac, you would be my salesman.
Yeah.
I'd drive to Detroit. When I get a Corvette,
Yeah.
Ali Reda will be my sales guy.
I'm ready.
But I remember, and and this is I think an opportunity for you to share something magical. I stopped. I had to buy a car fast one day because literally the wheel was falling off of my old car, and I was headed to a sales call. And so I'm like, dude, give me a car. I don't care what it is. Just give me a car. I need to get out of here. So this guy knew who I was. I mean, and I've never, ever, ever heard from that guy again, ever. Not a, hey, go screw yourself or nothing. I mean,
Wow.
nothing. And that includes all of the other salespeople that I've ever bought cars from as well. So I think it's an anomaly, unfortunately, for a salesperson actually develop a relationship, a friendship, stay in communication with their customer.
It's very important. Oh my gosh. I mean, you got to do it, right? And the dealership has so many tools in place to help you do that, right? I mean, there's
Yeah.
so many things that go out. There's so many letters and text messages and so many things that go out. So you have to utilize all the tools that you have that the dealership is offering, and on the personal level,
Yeah.
right? I mean, the social media and community engagement and all those things. I mean, you have to get yourself out there, because if you're just going to sell a car and be done, I mean, that's, to me, is a one night stand. I mean, that's it. What you're getting nothing out of that relationship. So, it's very important to build those relationships. And it's being able to slow time down. It's being able to respect that person's time and understand more about them as a person and their family, to understand, how do I build this relationship? I mean, you can't just expect, for them to give and then you not, you
Yep.
not give yourself. So there's obviously a lot to it. I mean, we're generally, salespeople in general are very good, big-hearted people.
Yeah.
So for the most part, I don't think there's any issues there. But if somebody's looking at it as just a business transaction,
Yeah.
then that's just the wrong approach, because it's not that.
It's yeah, I think that a lot of people, I mean, people should be learning from you, man. I think that making a car sale, whatever it is, it doesn't matter if you're selling
Yeah,
cars or
any product,
yeah,
any
right.
yeah.
It should be develop a relationship with the customer.
It's just like meeting any person at a restaurant, or meeting a person at a bar, or meeting
Yeah.
somebody anywhere, right? You build a relationship over time.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen overnight. It takes time, it takes dedication, it takes hard work, it takes,
Yep.
transparency. I mean, there's a lot of things in there. It takes being able to give and take. So it's just slowing time down and wanting to know that person a little bit more. and
Yeah.
and that's what somebody's going to remember. It's an emotional purchase, right? if,
Yep.
if you if you
Yeah.
can keep it that way and keep that emotions alive and the excitement alive, and they have a story to share, right? If somebody has a story to share about their purchase, then that's an emotional tie that they'll never forget. But if
Wow.
it's just, I went in there, I bought a car and I left because I had to, then there's no emotional attachment to it. So, but if you give somebody an experience, in an example is like, if you and I are sitting at dinner and I'm like, oh my God, man, you have to hear the story that I went through, and I went to 3 other dealerships and finally came, to this
Yep.
person, and Ken helped me out get this car, and you start going into the things that this person did for you, and how they cater to you, and they took the time to understand you and nobody else did. It's instilled in their mind and in their heart. So when they tell that story, the other person's intrigued to find out who you are, how they deal with you. They want to be around people like that.
Yep.
And it's always gonna be around, so.
Yeah.
But if it's just a simple one night stand, nobody cares. It's forgotten.
Yep.
Somebody mentions the word car, they're not going to remember anything, right? But now if you have an emotional tie to a car, and somebody says, oh, I'm thinking about buying a car. Oh my God, stop, hold on a minute, stop everything you're doing, you got to go see Ollie. And then
Yep.
you go into the story, and that's how you build relationship. That's how you get people referrals. And that type of referral, man, I mean, that's the easiest person to accommodate. They're going to come in and
Yeah.
they're already sold. That person sold them on everything. They don't have to come in and try to like you and trust you, and maybe they'll buy from you. They already like you, they already trust you because somebody else did that they
Yeah.
trusted. So
And I think that, you don't, I mean, it's just not in your nature. You're not, sitting here going, well, oh, I'm going to gross this one. I'm going to,
no,
you're there to help and to serve
right.
and fill their needs. I know it's a small world, but Daryl Wazinski is on here, and
That's
he's
my boy. I love Daryl. Daryl, Tammy, shout out.
it's
Yeah.
crazy. I mean, she sends me a message. Ken, I have somebody you need to get on your show. And I'm like, really? And she's like, yeah, it's this guy. He's the number one car salesman in the world. Literally said that. And I go, are you talking about Ali? And she goes, you know him?
That's
I'm like,
great.
oh my God. Small world.
That small world. Absolutely. Great people, man. I love them both dearly. And
They're
Daryl was one of those guys. That's how I met Daryl, because he got pushed around a couple of dealerships. He'll tell you the story. And
yeah.
and he
Yeah.
called me up. He's like, dude. I mean, he's a straight shooter. He's like, dude,
Yep.
this is what I have. This is what I'm going through. Somebody told me to contact you. Can you help me? Just be straight up. And I'm like, we had a conversation. It went very well. And I think within an hour, I'm no exaggerating, he was dealing with this person for 3-4 days or a week, and within hours, he was driving a car, and he was just
Wow.
blown away by the transparency. He's been involved in dealerships. He understood it, which is
Yeah.
better for me. I'm like, dude, you understand what's going on. Here's what we have. Here's the facts. Here's what I think we should do, and
Yep.
let's solve this problem together. And we did, and built a very very close friendship out of it.
That's awesome. And God, if I could get that message across to and everybody, like just work on relationships. You're going the deals are going to come to you. You know,
Yeah, the money is a byproduct. I mean, the money is going to come. We already know that. I mean,
yeah,
everybody, I mean, the more you sell, the more you're going to sell, and the more you're going to make. I mean, just take that. The money part of it was never a thing for me. Even early on, I never knew what I was making. I still don't know what I'm making on a deal. I never care. It is what it is. Obviously, we're all going to be profitable, but it's not what drives me. It's not the deciding factor if I should sell you a car or not by any means.
yeah. You don't care if it's $100 on a green prism.
Yeah, yeah, I didn't care. Imagine that was my mindset, and I was like, I'm not doing this for $100. I'm out of this place, and done.
Right.
That's it. But
Yeah.
then what? You know what I'm saying? Who knows
Yeah.
where we are today?
That's crazy. So
Good example.
you started, when did you start hitting 100+ cars a month? Do you remember?
I don't remember the exact timing. My buddy Damien, I always have to call him and ask him, when did I do this or when did I do that? Because I'd always call him, and he has such a good memory. He'd remember that stuff. But it was probably sometime in 2016, maybe 2016. So
Yeah.
so here I give you a little timeline though. So in June of 2010, I started at Les Stanford where I'm at now.
Yeah.
In 2017, so I'm doing 30, right?
Yeah.
So that's let's figure
In
that
2010 you were doing 30.
yeah. So let's
Okay.
say 2010 when I started over, I go back there and I'm doing 30, 35 cars. So let's call it 400, 500 cars a year, right?
Okay.
And the timeline goes to 2017, breaking the record of 1,580. That's not a big timeline, right? So
No, it's
in
not.
6.5 years, going from doing that to breaking the record, I mean, it's just how fast things can grow. I remember hitting 90, and I'm like, man, if I hit 90, I could do 100. 100 was the number, and I never thought anything past 100. I never thought
Yeah.
that was even possible. That was the number I wanted to get to, and I remember hitting it for the first time. I think it was like 101 or 102. Man, I called Damien, and one of the phone calls that we had, we call it the magic phone call. I'd call him and tell Damien, man, you're not going to believe this, man. You're not going to believe it, dude. I hit 100. I can't believe it. I finally did 100. And Damien's like, all right, what's your next number? And I'm like, dude, hold on a minute. I don't think you heard me. I hit 100. I hit 100. Come on, Damien. I hit 100. He goes, okay, what's your next number?
My God.
I'm like, bro, I'm calling my mom. I'm hanging up on you. Get out of here. My mom will be so happy for me. And you're telling me what's my next number? I have no idea. I just talking about it at 100. And he pushed me to those limits. And he was just like, I know there's more in you. I know there's more. He believed in me way before I did.
Yeah.
And when I started believing that, that's when those numbers started coming and increasing. And there is no limit. I mean, at this point, you just get smarter, you get better, you get faster, you become more efficient. There's going to be a person that's going to break this. They're going to blow through this 1,580 record. And I'm going to look back and say, wow, that's pretty amazing that somebody figured out a way to do it faster and better and more efficient, but it's going to happen. Right. So, he was funny because he would just be like, what's your next number? And I wanted somebody to pat me on the back. Right? I can't believe you did it.
This is maybe the sixth time we've brought up Damien's name, so I got to address this. Damien Boudreau is, when people ask me, or I'm trying to describe him to somebody, I'm like, he's like a savant. Like he's so brilliant. Like he thinks
He really is.
he's in a different world, like, and brings it to you. And it's amazing. He changed my life 4 years ago. And I know, you said he changed your life. So sure. People need to know who Damien is. He's a rock star.
Look him up, man. Look him up. Damien Boudreau. And he didn't, Ken, he didn't change who I was by any means. He never changed me. He never said, oh, go say this to a customer. They'll lay down right there in the showroom. Go do this and this will happen. No, he didn't do any of that stuff. He literally just made me aware of who I am and what is possible. That's all he did. He just made me more aware of everything around me, made me more aware of my feelings, my body language, the way I would say things, how I feel. So he just made me aware, which then made me a better person, which then made me a better salesperson. right?
Yeah.
So he didn't change me as a salesperson. He actually just enhanced me as a person, and that's where the difference came in. So then he just opened up my belief system too, because once I started hitting these levels, I was like, all right, so that's the next thing is possible, and I can do it. And until I actually wrote down 60 for the first time, because he asked me, what's your number at the first seminar? And I'm like, you were talking about some guy doing 60. I says, I can do 60. If somebody's doing 60, I feel like I can do 60. But I
Yeah.
never wrote it down. Never. It was just in my head. So he made me write down 60. So the second I wrote down 60, because now it happened here first, then it became real.
Yep.
And then I hit like 63. And I'm like, oh my God, I actually hit 63. So until I started actually believing what was possible, I mean, it wasn't gonna ever happen. And that's the difference maker, Again, the car gods were so good that I just brought him into my life. The universe just works in mysterious ways, but that's the timeline that it happened in 2010.
Do you think that the belief is more important than closing skills?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, you don't have to be the best closer. Well, I mean, what closing tool do you use on your mom?
Right.
What closing tool do you use on your sister, your brother, your sibling, your friend?
Yeah.
So if everybody is your mom sitting in front of you, if everybody is your friend, if everybody is your brother, I don't have to have the strongest closing tools. I just have to be myself.
Yep.
They're there to love and support you because of you, and you're there to reciprocate it back because of them. You don't have to have a secret handshake or these closing tools. They just want to know that you care. That's it. So if you show them that you care and you're there in their best interest, and again, you're solving a problem, not creating a new one, then would your mom say, no, Ken, nah, I don't want that. I don't believe you. I don't trust what you're saying. I don't believe any of this. I'm gonna go across the street. There's a guy there that I know that somebody referred me to. No, it's not gonna happen. Right. So that's the approach. The approach is everybody's your friend, everybody's your mother, everybody's your sister, everybody's, there to love and support you. And they just want to know that you care. That's plain and simple. So once you get to that point, I mean, no, you don't have to learn that stuff.
I think that gosh, there's so much in that, but people need to grasp a hold of what you're saying. That's so true. I wouldn't have to be anything different than me.
Yeah, you can't be anything different than you.
Yeah.
Right. And that's where the industry has been flawed for so many years, that we take good people and we make them bad. Right. They're good people initially when they start. Every single salesperson that starts is a great person, great heart, great person. And then all of a sudden you start filling their head with, you got to go say this, you got to go do this. Here's the phone script. Go out there and tell them this, and make sure you bash their head in, and make sure. Then you start changing as a person, not as a salesperson. You change as a person. Then you lose track of who you are. So then you don't fit anymore, right? You don't know what's going on. And if we can get people just to stay who they are and not change for the industry, or not change because the industry says you have to do this or you have to do that. No, you don't, right? Just stay who you are. And that's where it's flawed. That's where a lot of people kind of fail. And then, I don't like this manager, I'm going to the next dealer. Oh, well, I don't like the owner, I'm going to the next dealer. Or I don't like, the salespeople, I'm going to the next dealer. And then you start becoming completely different because you've been to 9 different places and you don't even know who you are anymore. So it's a flawed system.
What do you, I don't, I mean, I've worked in one car dealership, but I've heard, I know enough people in the car business to know that there's a lot of issues that you're referring to. What do you say to somebody that's brand new to the car business? They're just getting into selling. They have a manager that's like what you're talking about. What do you say to them? Like,
different dealerships have different process, right? So I'd say learn the process. The process doesn't mean you have to change as a person. You and the manager both have the same end result in mind, right? You're both trying to get to the end to get the sale. So you don't have to take their approach to get there. Ultimately, you can use your own vocabulary. You can use your own, your own words, whatever you're comfortable with to get to that end result.
Yeah.
So, unfortunately, there's some bad apples out there. I mean, they're going to yell at people. They're going to force people to do it. And, things are changing. It's not as brutal as it used to be. I feel like, now it's lightening up. We're getting a lot more professionals in this industry than we've ever had now.
Yeah.
And, I think you have to just stay true to yourself and be yourself, and don't change for anyone, right? You got to get to the end result, because obviously it's a business and there's a bottom line, and, they have to make ends meet, and, but you don't have to change to get there. And then once you get into, that's transactional, right? So once you get into this relationship type selling,
Yeah.
a lot of those problems actually go away. A lot of those issues just disappear. You don't have to go back and forth to managers. You don't have to, get somebody to like you, love you, trust you, and then there's a 15% chance they buy from you. Those things get eliminated, right? Then it's just two people having a conversation to solve a problem. Like I said about Jerry,
Yep.
they solve a problem and then they move on to the next thing. So it's very important for all salespeople to understand, and for everybody that's a green pea and everybody starting out, is to get involved with relationship selling. Understand what that means. Get involved in community. Understand how to do that. Those are the things that you want to get into, because this is not a job. It's it's
Right.
it's a career. So you
Yep.
have to treat it like a career. I plant
Yeah.
the seed today. I reap the benefits tomorrow. And I mean, there's no better time than today to start that. So that's very important for these green peas to get out there and create business. You got to create it.
Tammy says that the OMG, that old let me go check with the manager. That's the worst part of buying a car.
And
It does.
Tammy, you know what happens is when you go check with the manager, you go there, and the poor guy is like, he's shaking with this paper, and he's running, Mr. Manager, they don't want to do this, and then he's throwing things down. He's like, go back there and say this. The poor kid is walking back like shaking, doesn't know what to say, so they're gonna fumble it, right?
Yeah.
They're not used to that. So again, we're getting way more professionals. Managers are becoming a little bit more hands-on. I feel like it's changing, so it's definitely getting better than it used to be.
So let's talk about when you broke the record. What year was that?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. So up until, so that was in 2017.
Yeah.
So then we come out, we talk about it. Social media finds out about it. We put out a press release,
Yeah.
and a lot of people were like, "Where did this guy come from?" Right? Wait, this guy just sold 1,582. I never heard of him before. I wasn't on social media. I wasn't out bragging. I wasn't saying that. Hey Ben, that's my boy Ben.
I love Ben. He's
I love
awesome.
him, man. Such a
Yeah.
stand-up guy.
Yeah.
The conversations I have with him are amazing.
He's incredible.
He's calmed me down a few times, which is great. So, so I wasn't, I came on the scene, but everybody's like, okay, do we believe it? Do we not believe it? We don't know where he came from. They haven't heard of me before. But in 2016, I had sold, 1,350. In 2015, I sold 1,280. So nobody knew about these, because I'm not the type that was posting on social media, and I wasn't flaunting, and I wasn't out there
Right.
saying
Right.
these things, but I was doing it. So
Right.
until they realized that there's a history behind it, no, it didn't come out of nowhere, that people, weren't sure of whether it was true or not true.
Yeah.
And that 2017, I came off a pretty good year. I think the record was 1425 by Joe Girard.
Yep.
And then I did like 1,350, and I'm like, man, I was so close to that record. But it's not something that you can actually set out to beat. You can't go into the beginning of the year and say, this is the year I'm going to beat the record, because you don't understand what it actually takes to get to that number.
Right.
And the reason I say that is one, it took me 12 consecutive record breaking months to do it. Right? 12 consecutive record breaking months. I mean, you know how hard that is. And you're at the mercy of everything. You're at the mercy of, let's say, COVID. You're at the mercy of
Right.
no inventory. You're at the mercy of anything happening that you don't understand, that's not in your control.
Yeah.
So I go into 2017, January of 2017, I saw 163 cars. January, February, 140, March, 130, April, I think another 150. So not until June did I know that I was on pace. And then I looked at it in June, and I said, if this continues, I actually have a chance, right? Again, I still needed another 6 record breaking months in order to do it. any one of those months throws it off whack. And not until June did I know that it was possible that it was attainable.
Yeah.
And then not until I think by then, I think October, I knew I was going to do it.
Wow.
Right around October, I was only like 100 and something away. So I knew I was going to do it. And I actually broke it in November. And then December was kind of the gravy on top.
Wow. So you broke the record, and there was some nonsense that happened afterwards.
I know, it was so bad, man. I was actually heartbroken.
I'm sure.
I had this whole thing played out in my head, man. I had this movie just played out so perfectly. And right around like October, when I knew I was going to do it, I actually called Joe Girard. I actually got his number from a friend of mine, and I called him. Actually, it was from Bob Moore, God rest his soul, one of the greatest of all time.
Yeah.
He actually gave me his number, so I called him and I left a message. And the message was not, "Hey, I'm Ollie Reda, I'm breaking your record. You better call me back." I was like, "I'm gonna break your record, man." It was nothing like that. Yeah, it was literally, my name is Ollie Reda. I'm a huge fan. I would love to chat with you. If you could please give me a call back, I would love to chat with you. I'm a fan. Period. Didn't say anything about numbers, record, what I did, what I didn't do, nothing. I told him I was in the car business. And I got no call back. November, when I broke it, I called again, same message. Never got a call back. December, blew through the record, called again, same message, nothing. So I'm like, okay, he's not going to call me back. In January, February, we put out the press release that I actually broke the record. And that's when everything kind of broke loose. That's when the media and everything else, we put it out there. And then he started saying, no, it's fake. And it's not possible. Nobody can beat my record and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, okay, it was like a gut shot. Yeah, it was, because I thought, man, he sold Chevys in Detroit. He broke the record the year I was born. I mean, there was a great storyline in my head. I played this whole movie out, and I'm like, wow, I'm going to work with this guy. I'm going to go out and do some things with him. And I was actually going to revive his name, right? It was an old name in our industry. A lot of people didn't even know, who he was. And he wasn't doing anything. He wasn't part of the industry anymore. I mean, he had some sales training stuff, but it was older. And I thought that would be great for him to kind of re-enter in, our industry. Yeah. And no, he just like, it's fake. I'm coming down there. I'm suing you. I'm doing this. I'm doing that. Man, he filed a lawsuit against me. Media was like, "Hey, Joe said this about you. What do you have to say?" I'm like, "I would like to meet him. Tell him to come by, please. I just want to meet the guy. I never got to meet him." Right. So he sued me. And, because he said it was fake news. They actually came in. They did an audit. He had to pay for an audit. So they came in. We allowed him. We're like, yeah, sure, come in. I mean, in this day and age, General Motors actually is the one that gave him the list, right? I mean, everything is reported. I have a 1099 of every VIN number I sold. Yeah. And they're like, it's all fleet. It's all used. Joe's is new. I'm like, no, it was 1,530 new. I only sold 50 used that year, right? I wasn't focused on used. So a lot of my used cars, actually, I would give them to the used car guys. I'd be like, because I just didn't have time, and I'd give them all to the used car guys, and they would do it. So, of course, then they came in, they did the audit, they found out everything is kosher. He had stated that, once he found out that, everything was good, he'd come in and shake my hand and congratulate me. And he never did. Unfortunately, a month later, he passed away, which kind of sucked, because I hated to see that too. Wow. But, he was 91 years old. I mean, he was,
91 years old, and he's so upset that you broke his record that he filed a lawsuit against you at 91 years old.
91. I know. I don't know. Maybe it wasn't a good state of mind. I never got the answers.
Wow.
I don't know. Maybe one day I will, but I never, I understood his position. I really did. I understood, 44 years, you held a record. Here comes a guy that claims he broke it. Nobody knew what was going on. I mean, other than the facts were the facts and we had proof, I understood his position. It was kind of held the title for so many years. It might, it was probably a gut shot to him too, but I think if he approached it in a better way, it would actually enhance him, and he would have probably been able to get his stuff back out there, and we could have updated his stuff. And I think it would have been, pretty cool, but I guess that storyline sold more anyways, then the whole country wanted to hear about it,
Tammy.
But
Oh
but
my
that
God.
that's kind of where it ended, and
Yeah.
which is cool. Ken, it was really good for our industry as a whole that
Yeah.
it happened, because I feel after that point, it created a really good buzz throughout the industry. It revived a lot of dealerships, a lot of salespeople. It gave a lot of people hope, that, hey, this industry is not dead. Here's what's possible. Here's the guy that's doing it in today's day. So there was a lot of positive that came out of it, and I'm glad it happened, because, like
Yeah.
I said, it's just passing it forward. I think it's not going to take nowhere near 40 years for it to break again. Things are moving faster and more efficient nowadays than they ever have. So I think it paved the way for the next person to get there, and they'll pass it forward and so on.
Yep.
It's really, really good for our industry to have that, because I feel, we're getting more and more professionals that enter in our industry than previous. So it's very important for us to understand that was really a solid thing to happen.
I mean, dude, you're the Roger Bannister of the car business. I mean, right? The
Yeah, it
four
just
minute mile.
the 4 minute mile, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. It made people believe in
Yeah.
what's possible.
Yeah.
And now
It's
that you
amazing.
believe it, it's easier to achieve it.
Yeah, it's amazing, man. So let me ask you, because we're gosh, I can't believe we've already been on here 56 minutes. It's crazy. Um, l- Let me ask you this. What do you think? And this is car business. I don't care what business you're in. What do you think? This is your opinion. What's the number one thing that holds people back from two things? Number one, financial success, because I don't care what anybody says, life is way easier if you have a bunch of money.
Yeah.
And number two, freedom, real happiness in life. What do you think is holding people back from that?
Man, I mean, financial success, is, understanding what to do with your money once you have it, right? It's getting the help that you probably need, because at some point, understanding, how to save, how to invest, how to put it back in, how to have your money work for you when you're sleeping. I mean,
Mhm.
those are the things that, we're all going to make mistakes. I mean, I've made mistakes. You're right. We start making a bunch of money, and you start, just going to buy stuff, which is cool. It's fun. It's okay to do
Yeah.
that. But
Yeah.
you have to understand that, you want to set up your future, and you want to invest in other areas. So getting the help that you need, a financial advisor, understanding, having them help you, not think that you just have to do it on your own. I mean, that's huge, right? But the freedom of being free and alive is doing something that you love,
Yeah.
right? I mean, imagine waking up every day, Ken, and going, God, I don't want to go into this place. I just don't want to go in here. And I'm just,
Yeah.
it's heavy on your heart. How are
Yeah.
you going to be successful? You can't possibly be successful if you're not doing something that you actually love, and
Right.
finding the right home to do it at, right? I'm not one to say bounce around dealerships or bounce around real estate offices or bounce around, but you actually have to find a home
Yeah.
that you want to grow your business within. And if I was fortunate enough to do that, and that's the key. So it's not because of a manager that you don't like. It's finding a community, finding common ground, finding somewhere where you feel comfortable. And that, is a huge deal, because that buys you longevity. That will
Yep.
help you become more successful in whatever you're doing. Is understanding that, hey, I love being here. I actually love going to work every day. I'm I work 5 days a week, if you don't know that, but I like, by Sunday night, I'm ready. I'm ready to
Yep.
go back in. I'm not like, oh my God, it's Monday already, I don't want to go back in. No, I'm ready. I'm good. I love doing it. And
Yeah.
I have employees now that work under me that I absolutely love. And now I have an obligation to them
Yep.
to have that positive impact in their life.
I don't know if you've ever been here. I know I have been, but I had this moment. My wife and I, when we first met, we started our first office. We opened an office and had a handful of employees. And this one day, this big guy that worked for me comes walking in my office. I'm on the phone. He's like, "Hey, there's some dude out in the parking lot looking in the windows of your SUV." And I'm like, "You're bigger than me, dude. Tell him to get the hell out of here."
Right.
Right? Like, why are you telling me this? He's like, "He's got it blocked with a tow truck." And I was like, Oh
my
no,
gosh.
no,
Oh
this
no.
isn't happening. I'll call you back. I go out there and the dude's there to repo my car.
Oh my
Everybody
God.
else was getting paid except for us. And you know, it's like I remember Ali feeling at the lowest I had ever felt in my life. I have my employees standing around watching the repo guy take my car. And I'm like, this sucks, man. Like
Yeah.
life can't get any worse. What about those people? COVID, all these things that went down. You know, there's suicide went through the freaking roof. Like,
I
what do
know.
you say to somebody that's at the end of their rope? They feel like they've done everything. They don't know what else to do. What do you say to them to
I mean,
help
you
them
can't.
get through over that hump to the next moment?
I mean, you can't give up, right? I mean,
Yeah.
you can't give up. I mean,
Yeah.
there's always going to be better days. We're all going to hit that rock bottom. We're all going to be, brokenhearted. I mean, we're all going to get to that point where you're just like, I can't go anymore. But you got to be surrounded by people that love you. You got to be able to say, I have a foundation, right? I have family. I have friends. You don't have to approach those things alone by any means. And a lot of people feel like that. Oh, they're embarrassed, or they can't. No, that's what friends and family are for, right? If you have to have those go-to people in that group that you have, and there's always going to be better days. It's patience, right? I mean, we got to
Yep.
learn patience and say, okay, you know what, God has a better plan for me, and I got to be
Amen.
patient enough to let things develop, and it happens. It happens all the
Yeah.
time, and having that core surrounding friends and family, I think will help people get through it. And sometimes it's just getting back to the basics. Sometimes
Yeah.
it's like Damien says, being aware that that's actually happening. A lot of times
Yeah.
you're going through that and you're not even aware that what's happening, right? So once you're aware of it happening, you can fix it. But I mean, never ever give up. I mean, you can't.
Amen.
I mean, I almost gave up in 2010 when I said, okay, you know what? I don't know if this industry is good anymore, right? Do I give up?
Yeah.
Do I go somewhere else? Do I stay? And my gut and my heart told me, no, you have to stay. This is what you want to do. And here we are today, right? So it's just a matter of finding that happiness within. And once you're at peace with a lot of things will fall into place.
Amen. Man, that's awesome. Great answer, man. Ali, Rita, I am very honored and grateful that you came on and spent some time with us
Dude, for
today.
sure.
You're an amazing man, amazing
No, man,
human
I
being.
appreciate you. We're all in this together, right? I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah.
without a doubt, we're definitely all in this together. And in an industry that people think we're in competition with each other, we're really not,
Nah.
right? We're out here passing it forward and helping the next guy, and eventually this industry is going to be a lot better than what it has been, and that's the goal. The goal for like my Frank and myself and Jonathan Dawson and yourself and Damien. There's so many people out there that
Yeah.
the plan is to eventually leave this industry better than what we found it, and
Yeah.
that leaves it for the next person, and that's the ultimate goal.
Man, you guys make me want to start selling cars sometimes.
Let's go. Let's go. Hey, I'll find room. You can move here. I'll find room on my team. I'm ready for it.
I love it, dude. You're awesome. All
I
right,
appreciate you
listen.
having me on here too, Ken. I appreciate
Hey,
it. Everything you
where
do for our industry is huge, man. So we appreciate you having these shows like this because they
oh,
do help.
dude. I'm so honored. Tracy Shepard calls you Papa.
She is
I love
she
that.
is all
I love
one of
Tracy.
my
She's
faves
awesome.
of all time. Ain't
So
there
so you hey, where's the best place for everybody to follow you? What on social media? Like what channels?
Yeah, I mean, Facebook, of course, anytime. My number's posted everywhere, so anybody needs to get a hold of me, I'm open. I get text messages all the time with salespeople across the country. Watching shows like this definitely helps.
Yeah.
Frank, myself, and Jonathan Dawson started a group called the Pinnacle Society.
What's that website address? I'll put it up here. Do you know?
Yeah, the Pinnacle Society. .com. Yep, yep,
thepinnaclesociety.com.
yep. Thepinnaclesociety.com, and it's a private group for exclusive group for salespeople that are in the 25 range, average range.
Is that right? Did I spell that right? The
The
Pinnacle.
Pinnaclesociety.com. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, and basically, it's just a private group for for the successful salespeople to kind of celebrate with each other and learn from each other and grow with each other and struggle together.
Yeah.
So that's a really good spot for people to look into. And of course, look up my friend Damian Boudreaux, because nothing better than him.
I'm telling you, people don't even realize what Damien could do for him.
Amazing, absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
Right.
Ali, thank you, man. You're one of my favorite people. I genuinely appreciate it. It only took 3 years, and here we are, man.
I was waiting to get all this
31st off.
I was waiting to get all this content for you. I had to build it up. It takes time.
I love it, man. Dude, you're awesome. Thank you for everybody who's been watching and shared it out in all the comments. Ali will go back and look through your comments later, but
yeah, for sure.
Man, I am so grateful. Thank you so much. And you guys all have an awesome day. Follow Ali everywhere on social media, everywhere. And check out the Pinnacle Society, because again, Jonathan Dawson is a savant as well. Like he's on a different level. I mean, you guys
best in the industry.
Oh, you guys have such an amazing group of it's just insane. So anyway, thank you so much. Appreciate it. Everybody have a great day. We'll see you later.
Thanks, guys.